welcome to this yoga class for the spine. So this is a yoga class designed for the evening, and we will be doing the entire practice lying down on our backs. Now I do have a couple of props here. They're all optional, so don't worry about it if you haven't got them to hand. I've got a yoga belt, or you can use a rolled up towel if you like. I've also got a cushion or pillow off my bed. And I'll also give you the option to use a wall. Like I said, it's optional, so don't worry if you don't have access to it. So we will be starting on our back, so just make your way down to the floor. Maybe moving any props out the way. And we'll just bring the legs out long if that feels okay for the lower back. Otherwise you can have the soles of the feet on the floor if you prefer. And we'll just start with a few breath to movements, and as we move with the breath, trying to focus the breath into the belly, so really deep belly breaths. And then on the inhale, we'll just start to reach the arms slowly overhead, bring the backs of hands to the floor. And on the exhale, just bringing the arms back down by the side. So we'll just do this a few times, moving with our breath in our own time. This movement just helps to extend the breath, taking really deep breaths. Starts to engage the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to really relax and rest the body. And then just finishing this round, bringing the arms back down to our sides. And then if you're not there already, just bring the soles of the feet to the floor. You want your feet about hip distance apart. I'm just going to move this pillow out the way for this next bit. Arms down by the side, palms can be face down to begin with. And the lower back just pushing into the floor slightly. And we'll just start to lift the pelvis up, so moving into a bridge pose here. And when we come into this pose, it's important to keep the neck and the head just gazing up. This is because we just put a little bit of pressure on the back of the neck as we move into this pose, and we don't want to be moving the head when we do this. So on the inhale, start to just tuck the pelvis, peel the hips up, coming into our bridge pose. You want to keep a space between the chin and the chest, maybe the size of about an apple. And then exhale to lower the hips back down, rolling back down the same way you came in. So this time we'll do the same movement, lifting the hips. But as we inhale, lifting the hips up, we'll also bring the arms with us, bringing the backs of the hands to the floor. And then on the exhale, bringing the hands back down as we move the back and the pelvis back down to the floor. Inhale, lifting the arms, lifting the hips up. See if you can move the hips up and the arms at the same time. Exhale to come back down. And again, we just try and move with our own breath and our own time. So if that's different to mine, that doesn't matter at all. Just working with what feels comfortable for you. And we'll just do this 2 more times. Inhaling to lift up. Exhale, slowly bringing back down. And last time, inhale. And exhale. From here, you might like to bring the knees in towards the chest and just gently rock side to side, massaging the lower back. You might like to take a few circles with the knees in one direction and then the opposite direction. Great. And then coming back to center, bringing the knees in. From here, start start to lift the head off the ground. See if you can reach your head towards your knees. And on the exhale, we'll take the left foot down towards the floor, so just the toes onto the floor, keeping the knee bent. And we'll bring the right arm up and overhead. And then bring it back into center. And then swap into the other side. Bring it back to center. Swap it over again. Inhale back to center. Exhale, opposite side. Inhale to center. Try and see if you can keep the navel pulling it in here as you move through these movements. Just waking up the spine, generating a little bit of heat in the belly. Last time. Just dropping the leg and the hand down, coming back into center. And then releasing both feet down, the head down to the floor. And you can just drop the knees over to one side and then the opposite side for a little windshield wiper of the legs. So from here we'll move into a bit of a hamstring stretch. So if you have a belt, then you have the option of using this here. You can also use a wall in this pose, so you might need to shimmy over to the wall a little bit. Bring the soles of the feet to the floor. And then we'll start with both knees bent. And we'll start to straighten the left leg up in front. And if you're using a belt, you're just going to take one side of the strap in each hand and then just place that around the ball of the foot. Have the hands up if you can quite high up the strap. And start with a bent left leg. And then just start to push through the heel of the foot as you extend the leg up. Be careful not to go beyond your range of motion here. It can be quite an intense hamstring stretch for some people, so just make sure you are working with what feels good for you. If you haven't got a strap, then you can just place the hands behind the quad or behind the calf. And we're kind of working the foot towards the head, so the top of the mat. That's the direction we're working in, but you might just be out here today. It doesn't really matter as long as you're feeling a bit of a stretch in the back of the leg. We're just trying to lengthen out the hamstring. Hamstring or tight hamstrings can really impact on the lower back, so this is just helping to release some of that tension there. So you can stay here with the right leg bent, or if you like, you can send that right leg out. And if you're against a wall, you might like to just start to push that foot into the wall, so really creating length in the back body. And we'll just stay here, taking a few deep breaths, seeing whether you can continue to breathe into the belly. Maybe noticing whether you can get any deeper into the pose. Noticing whether you can feel any release. And then just 2 more deep breaths here. And then when you're ready, start to bend that left foot, release the strap, just send it out long for a moment. Notice how that feels. While I'm here, I always like to notice whether one side feels slightly different to the other. And we'll bring the soles of the feet to the floor again, and we'll take this to the opposite side. So again, taking your strap, if you're using a strap, place it around the ball of the right foot, and then just start to extend that leg out, starting with a bent knee. You can stay with the bent knee option if you like. I have a little bit of a hamstring strain, so I'm just going to stay with a bent knee today. And then you can keep the left leg with the sole of the foot on the floor. You can send that out long. Maybe start to push into a wall if you have a wall there to support the foot. That extra support can feel quite nice. And then again, we'll just stay here for a few deep breaths. Maybe noticing whether this side feels any different to the other side. It's quite common to have one side slightly tighter than the other. Now we'll just stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And then when you're ready, start to bend that knee, release the foot and send it out long. Just again noticing how that feels. And if you like, you can bring the soles of the feet to the floor, and again just windshield wiper the legs gently from one side to the other. And then when you're ready, bring the soles of the feet back to the floor. So now we'll take a pose called banana pose, and it's a really good stretch for the side body. So we're really working through the 6 movements of the spine here, and we're doing so in a very gentle, kind of a gentle way, so not creating too much energy in the body, because it's a nice class to do just before bed, so really trying to calm down the nervous system. So that means we will be holding this pose for about 5 deep breaths, and we'll bring the legs out long. Make sure you've got enough room above your head, because we'll bring our arms out and overhead. And then from here, start to walk the soles or the heels of the feet over to the left corner of the mat, and then start to walk the hands over to the left top corner of the mat. So this is your first option. You can stay here if you like, or if you want to take the stretch a little bit deeper, you can cross your right ankle over the left ankle, and you might like to take the right wrist in the left hand. Notice if your right hip is lifting off the mat, and just see if you can ground it down. If you are noticing it lift, then you can always put like something heavy on your hip just to keep it grounded. That can be a bolster if you have a bolster, or it can just be maybe some rice, a pack of rice or something, anything just to give it a little bit of pressure to keep that grounded. So this is a really good side stretch for the whole side body. It's a movement that we don't often take in our day-to-day life, so it's quite nice to be able to just relax into this pose. If you do start to feel any numbness or any tingling in the arms, then you can always bring them down lower. Maybe try just taking opposite hands to opposite elbows. Or if that doesn't help, you can also bring the hands just down to the belly. We're still getting that nice stretch through the side. So just see what works for you, adjusting the pose if you need to. And we'll just be here for 2 more deep breaths. And then uncrossing the legs, just making your way back to center. And you'll release the arms down by the side for a moment if you like. And then we'll take that on the opposite side, so this time walking the feet over to the opposite corner. Walking the hands over to the opposite corner. So you may have noticed this is called banana pose because we're kind of in the shape of a banana. And then again, you have the option of taking the left wrist with the right hand, or maybe crossing the left ankle over the right. Notice again if that hip is coming up, and just seeing if you can ground that down. And start to take those deep breaths. Noticing the belly expand on the inhale and soften on the exhale. Just here for 2 more deep breaths. And then when you're ready, slowly just making your way back to center, releasing the arms down, and bringing the soles of the feet to the floor. So we'll be taking a spinal twist now. So this is where you might like to have your pillow to hand. And if you do want to use that, you can just place it to one side of the body for the moment. So we'll bring both of the legs up towards the chest, just bring them in, hugging the legs in a little bit, maybe just gently rocking back and forth. And then we'll send the left leg out long, keeping the right leg in, bring the right arm out to the floor. I find it easiest to have the palm facing down to provide some support there. And with the left hand, just start to guide that knee over towards the right side. This is where you can use your pillow to just support the leg if you like. And then the gaze can meet up if that feels okay for the neck, or you can send the gaze out over the right fingers. And then we'll just be here for about 5 rounds of breath. So just taking these nice long poses, these passive poses. And then when you're ready to come out of the pose, you might like to just support that leg and bring it back up to center, hugging both knees in towards the chest, and then taking it to the other side. Put a pillow over if you're using a pillow. So this time we'll send the right leg out long, hugging the left leg in. Left arm comes out towards the side, palm facing down, and then just start to guide that knee over the body. You want to try and keep the left shoulder grounded. So we're getting a nice twist through the spine. And gaze can be up or it can be over towards the left fingertips. But only do that movement if it feels okay for the neck. Just 2 more deep breaths here. And then when you're ready, support the leg, coming back up. Again, hugging both knees in towards the chest, just giving them a little squeeze. And then releasing the feet to the floor. So we'll take a pose called Happy Baby Pose now. So I'll give you a couple of options here. And the first option is just to bring both soles of the feet up, and with your hands bring it on the inside of the legs, and then see if you can take the outside of the foot. And we are aiming for the heel of the foot to be over the knee, but if you've got quite tight hips, then that might not quite be like that, so you might have them slightly bent, but that's the direction we're working towards. And we're working towards pulling the shoulders down towards the floor and trying to have the pelvis on the floor, so the lower back pushing into the floor, so lengthening through the spine. So there's also quite a nice hip opening pose as well, and it stretches through the backs of the legs. If this isn't accessible for you, you can try just doing one leg at a time, having one leg just the sole of the foot on the floor. That can be a little bit easier. Or you can just work with the hands behind the thighs, and again you can do one leg at a time if you like. whichever option you take, you're still getting all the benefits. And just swapping legs if you're doing one leg at a time. And we'll just be here for another few deep breaths. Continuing to push down through the tailbone. And then just releasing the legs out, bring the soles of the feet to the floor. You might like to again take those windshield wipers, just gently rocking the legs to one side and then the other side. So we'll move into our final resting pose now. And this is an inversion. So it's quite a nice one to take that really helps to soothe the parasympathetic nervous system that I mentioned earlier. So that's our nervous system related to rest and digest. It's also quite nice for the lymphatic system as well, so it can really help just clear toxins out of the body by moving lymph to the lymph nodes. So there's lots of benefits for this pose, and it's quite a nice relaxing pose, so feel free to stay in this for as long as you like. And I'll give you a couple of options as well. So if you are using a belt, the first option that I'll give you is to take your belt, place it over the balls of both feet, and then just start to straighten the legs up. So this is our first option, staying here. Another option, if you have a wall nearby, is to take legs the wall pose. So just bringing the bum towards the wall and then just bringing the legs up and resting them there. You can also use the belt there if you like. Just create, if you've got a yoga belt, just create a loop and placing the belt around the feet. That way you can just let the legs kind of dangle out to the side if you like, and they're a bit supported. So that's also an option if you have a belt to hand. And the last option, if you like to have a bit of support under the sacrum, is to take your pillow and just pop it under the sacrum. You might need to just readjust yourself a little bit, and that just gives the hips a little bit more of a lift, and that can be quite nice for some people as well. So just play around with a couple of those options, see what's best for you. If you don't have a wall and you don't have a belt, then you can just work with the legs lifted. If you've got something under the pelvis, or the sacrum, just to lift the pelvis up slightly. Most people, I know that I find that I can actually just keep the legs lifted up without much effort at all. So play around with that. We'll stay here for a couple of minutes and I'll leave you in this final resting pose. So if you do want to stay here any longer, feel free to stay here for as long as you like. And then just start to bring your focus back to the breath. Taking those deep breaths in through the nose. Feel the belly expand. And exhale at the nose, feeling the belly soften. So I am going to end the class here. However, stay here for as long as you like. This pose pose is very beneficial for a number of reasons. So feel free to stay here for as long as you have. And I thank you for practicing with me today.